All right. Well, welcome, Jeff, to Getting Literal with the Bible. This is our reboot of a particular playlist I was working on years ago, and it's exciting to have a young seminarian show up to the fight, so to speak. So this is just a fun thing. We're just here to see what God is doing through you. There could be curveballs along the way, but let's just have fun with it. What book are you focusing on today, Jeff?
Well, today we're going to focus on First Samuel. I think it's my favorite book in the Bible, and so I think it would be fitting.
Welcome to Getting Literal with the Bible, your premier source for biblically proportioned Bible interviews.
Now, why is it your favorite book?
That's a great question. Right after I was saved, a friend of mine had recommended Alistair Begg, who some people may know, but he was preaching through First Samuel, and I would listen to him as I would walk home. And I worked a graveyard shift, so I'd walk home at 2 or 3 in the morning, and nothing was going on. And so that was the first time I had encountered First Samuel, and it caused me to go home and read it. And first time I encountered David and Goliath or any of the wonderful stories. And so the book just turned into almost like an exciting movie. It is a book that I think is hard to be bored with. It's just constantly throwing twists and turns, all while God is shining forth from it. So it's a wonderful book. It gets me excited.
So literally, your first contact with First Samuel was through Alistair Begg, through his ministry.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I had only read really the New Testament and Genesis at the time, and I didn't even know where First Samuel was. But yeah, the way that he was walking through the book made me want to go find it in the Bible, and the way that he helped to unpack the stories just brought it to life.
That is so exciting. I mean, and that's great that you had like one of the best exegetes on the planet explain the book to you. That's great. So I expect a lot of good stuff so far today.
Okay. Good, no pressure. Yeah.
Viewers, if you're new to this, basically I have some questions that are going to help us kind of develop a flavor and a sense of biblical literacy to get people interested in the Bible. And then also we're trying to see how this book has helped shape Jeff's life. And you've already heard a little bit there. Awesome. So we'll just go to the next question. What do you think the key verse of First Samuel is?
So I'm kind of going to cheat, but I think there's 2 verses that go together. And just quickly before we get to the verses, First Samuel has always been called Samuel. And then in the 15th century, it was split in 2. So there are 3 poems that really structure the book. One at the beginning, 1 Samuel 2, one in the middle, 2 Samuel 1, and then one at the end, 2 Samuel 24. And they all say the same thing. They all have the same theme. But so the key verse that I'm going to pick, or verses, is from Hannah's prayer, Samuel's mom. 1 Samuel 2, verses 9 and 10, and they say, "He will guard the feet of his faithful ones, but the wicked shall be cut off in darkness. For not by might shall a man prevail. The adversaries of the Lord shall be broken to pieces. Against them he will thunder in heaven. The Lord will judge the ends of the earth. He will give strength to his king and exalt the horn of his anointed." It's kind of long, but I think that kind of is setting the tone for the book.
Yeah, well, these things are long because it was before TV. So a lot of awesome detail there. Very cool. Yeah, that's a great place to start. Do you have any sense or feeling from that? How did it speak to you, that intro?
Yeah, I think in general, it it catches me off guard when I read something like that, because it's very straightforward. God is going to judge his enemies. And also something that stuck out to me was this phrase, not by might shall a man prevail. And just how I am wired, I want to prevail by my own might. And realizing that actually God has to do it is really something that's challenging and encouraging at the same time. So that really sticks out. And then, of course, at the end, how God will give strength to his king, which, you can kind of see how that will speak to later parts of the book. Not our king, but his king. And then eventually our great king, Jesus. So anyways, I think it just is a wonderful picture of who God is.
Wow, that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, especially that part about depending on God instead of yourself. That is so key. We're all blessed with kind of some uneven talents. We each have something that we excel at, or we're weak in, and that's really neat that you say to rely on God. And I think that's so important, because even in those places where we think that we're strong, even still, God wants us to rely on him instead of ourselves. So enough of my preaching. We'll get to the next question there. So how has God used this book to encourage you?
He's used this book in monumental ways to encourage me. Kind of like I mentioned towards the beginning of my walk with Christ, this book entered my life. And shortly after that, I wanted my friends to know how great it was. So I started a Bible study, mapping the study off of Alistair's sermons, because I didn't know what I was doing. But just as I walked through the book, I couldn't get enough of this God who was bent on what I notice in the book, and what we'll get to is raising up the humble and tearing down those who are proud and strong in the world's eyes. That's what had just happened to me, as I realized I needed Jesus. I couldn't be strong in my own might. I couldn't come to God on my own. And so this book also just, it did that, but it also opened up the Old Testament to me, because I just was under the impression the Old Testament was probably a little boring. It might drone on. It was stories that didn't matter to me. But as I opened this book, I couldn't get enough. It was exciting. It's action-packed. And at the end of the day, I didn't walk away necessarily feeling good about myself, but good about my God.
Wow. So even the form of the book itself, like narrative, it fleshed out something about God. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I think it is true. Because it's great to read things like Romans, where there's this argument that Paul is making, but in this narrative form, I think it shows a different side of the diamond of God's character. It helps us get a peek into how God works in people's life, how Romans or another logical argument might actually look when God is working with his people.
Wow, very cool. And for our viewers, if you're new to the scriptures, what Jeff and I just kind of went into was different types of genre. And there are different types of genre in the Bible, and First Samuel is narrative, so it's a story. Yeah, but when you get into something like Romans, we're dealing with something that's very technical and philosophical. So there's all sorts of genre in the Bible, and each one pulls out something new about God. Thanks for your patience on that explanation, Jeff.
continue your scriptural journey and tune in next time for part 2.
Thank you for watching. Share us with others and support us as we serve you. www.stairwaydivision.org/partners